Hello everyone, thank you for watching my video update. It's a little bit different than normal. Normally I just type it up and you guys read word by word, line by line, see a picture every now and then. And this time hopefully it's a little bit more refreshing, maybe a little more interesting, as you actually get to hear a voice, you get to see a face. I just hope you guys like it. If you guys prefer, just, hey Mike, type that sucker up and we'll read it. And it's not even that big of a deal. These video things are hard to keep up with. Then I won't do it. But Ryan gave me the advice to try that out. As he said, a lot of people prefer the videos. So give me some feedback. If you guys like the video, I'll do the video. If you guys only want me to type it up, then I'll do that. So this is mainly just to try to cater to you guys to see which one you like best. First off, I'll talk about the church. We've been doing our Wednesday morning Bible study still, and we've been doing our evening Bible study still. Right now we finished the book of James in the morning, and we've gone into the pastoral epistles, 1st and 2nd Timothy, the book of Titus. So we'll tackle those, verse by verse, chapter by chapter, book by book, and then same thing in the evening. Once we finish the book of Mark, who knows where we'll go after that. But right now we're still trucking away through there. And then on Sunday mornings, we're still in the book of Genesis. 50 chapters, that might take us a while. But please keep praying because the Lord really is working there. And, people have told me how, they are appreciating, just going verse by verse. And they do feel like the Lord is speaking to them. And so I know that only happens through prayer. It doesn't really matter if I speak it well or if I don't speak it well. It doesn't matter if I have really nice words or if I'm entertaining with good stories. It takes the Holy Spirit to communicate to somebody's heart. And that's, done through prayer, is asking for the Holy Spirit to show up and to speak into their lives. And so for us to get that kind of feedback, that's simply because God is working. It has nothing to do with me, but it's through prayer. And I know a lot of you guys are praying for us. So please keep praying that God's people are being fed. There has been a small discrepancy with a few members in the church. A few members in the church kind of got together on their own time, just outside of church on a Wednesday, and they discussed amongst themselves that they didn't really feel like our church was the spot for them anymore, and they decided to leave. Various reasons, I think, had to do with they didn't feel like I was pastoring them properly. Them specifically, maybe they just have other needs that I'm not able to meet. I think some of it had to do with my vision might be a little different than the previous pastors, and so they're just not as happy as they would like to be. And so just please pray for them. This very well could be something that God is doing, and then God is moving them to a different place, and their heart and their intentions are completely pure, and this is just going to be better for them, and it'll be better for our church, and that there's no hard feelings in the decision that's been made. But it's possible that they do have an ill motive in it, and the Lord just needs to correct something. I'm not going to say which one it is. I really don't have an opinion. Just time will tell. But I would like to cover both bases on prayer. One, that they're thoroughly blessed in whatever that they do, whether they come back to our church or they go to a different church. Or two, if there's an area that needs correcting, I would only pray that it would be corrected. But also, if they're making the right decision, I pray the Lord would strengthen that decision, and that He would still be pouring into their lives, and they would still be growing in their relationship with Him. But also for me, I fully understand that I'm a young guy, and I'm new to pastoring a church. So that in and of itself is a combination for mistakes. So I know I haven't done everything right, and I'm sure there's a lot of validity to many of the things that they're saying, and to some of the things that they're saying maybe there isn't. But I know that I could be doing a better job. I know that I'm going to be growing and learning as time goes by. So just please pray for me that I would be teachable. Pray for me that I wouldn't have an arrogance and a pride to myself, thinking that I'm above or making mistakes and that I'm doing everything completely perfectly right, because that would just be foolish for me to assume that I'm 100% right on par in everything that I'm doing. I'm going to make a mistake or two. But the thing is, am I willing to accept that and then grow from that and to step forward and to mature? And so please pray that I would grow, and that I wouldn't just think, hey man, they're totally wrong, they're off their rocker, I don't think that, but just pray against that, because I'm sure that could creep in. And I do want to be progressively becoming the best pastor that I can be, that God will enable me to be. And so that doesn't happen by me thinking I have it all figured out. So your prayers, even on my end, that I would continually be growing, I also equally covet, and just pray that you would continue to lift me up, that I may do my service here diligently under the Lord as I should. Also, please pray for the service opportunities that we have in the church. There's a big need for us to have a children's ministry leader, and it would be nice to have that on a rotation. But as of right now, we really don't have anybody. And we've had Aaron Garcia come down, who lives up in San Ysidro right now. He's serving for the Bible college that's in Costa Rica. And he's helped us out with children's ministry. He's helped us out with translation, because the Sunday morning service has to be translated from English to Spanish. And so there's a lot of needs that we have. We have a need for a translator. We have a need for a worship team. Some of these things that you would think, man, shouldn't a church already have those things? Well, we kind of did. We definitely did when Pastor Mike Chaves was here. His wife was helping out. The church was just a little more flowy, a little more functional when the previous pastor was here. And as he left, a lot of the strength kind of left with it. And so to some degree, we're kind of like a church plant still. And so there's still a lot of areas where we need help in. And so just please pray that the Lord would provide people with the heart to come alongside and serve us, whether it's a worship team, whether it's children's ministry leaders, whether it's a consistent translator. And that's kind of it for now. Hopefully the whole body will be able to come together and serve alongside us through hospitality, for coffee and cakes or something after church, just so we can provide a time for fellowship. We were doing breakfast in the morning before the service would start, before worship would start, before all of that. We'd make a Costa Rican dish called gallo pinto. It's just like beans and rice and a special kind of salsa with some other veggies in there. But that slowly but surely people stopped showing up to that, and so there wasn't as much fellowship in the morning as we were hoping there to be. So one thing, we lost the restaurant, which I'll talk about in a second. But since we lost the restaurant, we don't do breakfast in the morning anymore. Now what we'll do is we'll have coffee and cookies and just various things after the service. Just because, if people aren't coming before, for fellowship, maybe they'll stay afterwards. So they can, on Sunday morning, they could hear the message, and then we could talk about it. We could grow with each other, invest into each other's lives. And so, but a part of my prayer alongside that is that as a pastor, that I would make an effort, I would make time, and I would, make the most out of any opportunities that I get, and I would seek out opportunities throughout the week to go invest into the congregation, either at their house or invite them to our house, meet up with them over coffee at a restaurant. And I would like to have more fellowship and a little more intimacy with the congregation on my free time that isn't on a Sunday morning. I really want to be able to build those bridges. Right now, the easiest I can do that with is those who speak English. But that's kind of the thing. So please also keep me in prayer that I be learning Spanish, so that I could more easily invest into the Costa Ricans here in their own language and not expect them to, you better learn English, because that's absolutely not the way to go about it. If I'm going to live here, I need to learn Spanish. And so please help me do that. And that way I can also get out there and I could meet more random people and invite them to church, share Christ with them, and just kind of meet new faces. And most of the faces out here are all Costa Rican, so they all speak Spanish. And so it's kind of hard to communicate when two people are speaking two different languages. There's an element of your body language, and you could show the love of Christ to them just by your actions and making attempts, but you can only get to know them so much unless you can actually have a conversation with them. So I would like to do that more and more and more with the Americans that are in the church, during the middle of the week, and then, or throughout the week, and then also once I learn Spanish with the Tico side of things with them as well. So please keep that on your prayers, that I would be able to do that more often. Well, I am able, I guess, but that more opportunities would come up, and that I would take advantage of those opportunities. I would try to make the opportunity make that effort to reach out to them, not just them reaching out to me. Okay, so I also mentioned that the restaurant was taken away from us. You probably caught you like, what? What happened? He just kind of threw that in there and stopped talking about it. Well, we turn in our rent on the same day every month. And I knew that this was coming for some time now. Even when I first got to Costa Rica, the previous pastor said, hey, pretty soon this guy's going to take our restaurant away from us, and he's going to move us back here into this building where at least we'll have a building for church. We won't have a restaurant, but at least we'll have church. So I kind of knew that it was coming, but it happened a lot sooner than I thought, because I thought we still had another month and a half. And so when I turned in my rent, this past due date, he said, okay, well, cool. Tomorrow you can turn in the keys, and we're going to start changing this over to be the new Italian restaurant. And I was like, what? Like, partially that's a blessing because, the rent's kind of expensive, and the season is really, really slow, so it's really hard to make enough money to pay the rent. So now we don't have a rent to pay, so it's not hard to get the money to pay $0 to somebody, right? But the bummer is then, well, where are we going to meet for church? Because this back new building isn't even completed yet. Not even close to being completed yet. So I felt he really just pulled the rug out from underneath us. But then, praise the Lord, I talked to the Italian guys that are going to be moving in there, and they said that they will allow us to keep meeting there on Sundays, as they're not done, remodeling the place and repainting it and putting in all their stuff. And they have a lot of work to do on the restaurant that we used to have. So they said, until we're done, until we're open for business, go ahead and meet here on Sunday morning. So that's really cool. We still have a place to meet on Sunday mornings. But that makes it harder to meet on Wednesdays because, they're out there doing kind of construction stuff on a Wednesday. And so now we're still not really sure where to meet on Wednesdays. So, keep that in prayer that, in this time where we're kind of in the middle from, one location to another location, we're kind of in limbo, pray that the Lord would just bless, all the things that we do here, that people still feel comfortable coming to church, and that I'm able to still process my thoughts, and that we can still teach right. And because it's just kind of, it feels a little chaotic right now, just because everything just happened all at once, like boom, So just for things to be smooth, please keep that in your prayer as we wait to move into this new building. I'll describe this new building to you because things have even changed with this new building. Originally, we were going to move into this new building, and it's a big building. The rent would be a little over $1,000 a month, and we can't have a restaurant there. We just have church. And so I talked to the landlord, and I said, hey, we can barely pay rent for the restaurant right now. And if you move us to a new building where we're paying almost the same rent, and then we don't even have a restaurant to pay for the rent, to cover the cost, there's no way that we're going to be able to, give you money every single month. And he thought about it, and he said, okay, well, how about you can do the restaurant back here. You sell your cheeseburgers back here also. So then I thought about it, that, okay, well, that might work out, but it's a much more less convenient location. It's further back away from the main street, and just the fact that it's coming up to a time where it's going to be considered rainy season, the slow season, that if we're not getting any customers now, there's like no way we're going to get enough customers to keep paying rent. And so I just talked to him and said, hey, is there any way that maybe we could only rent something on a Sunday? Because we can't afford paying over $1,000 a month for this. And so he said that was really too hard for him, this and that. And so just, through a couple different discussions with the guy, what he's actually going to end up doing is he's going to build a small little chapel in between the two restaurants. So he'll have the Italian restaurant in the front, and now he's going to change this, what was to be our restaurant, into a Spanish restaurant, and then we'll be right in the middle. So that potentially could be really cool. A lot of people coming into both of these restaurants, maybe, and if they do come, then they could see our church in the middle. So that could be really cool, and the rent would be much cheaper. He said we could use it 24/7, and so that's something we can afford. But the thing is, if he's not even done building that back restaurant, he said he'll start our chapel once that back restaurant is finished. Man, this could be forever until we're into this new place. So we might be in limbo for a long time. And so just please keep it in prayer that, the Lord's really going to guide us to where we meet for church and just how church is going to look like and who's there to help serve and who's coming, who's showing up. It's a critical time. There's a lot of new stuff happening right now. We do really feel like a church plant all over again. Even though this church has been here with Pastor Mike, I think, for 4 years or so, nowadays it's starting to feel like a church plant all over again. So this transition, please keep in your prayers. The restaurant was a huge blessing to have. There's a lot of interesting people that come through Costa Rica with, at least Dominical for sure, with a lot of different interesting spiritual views. And so I've had a lot of opportunities to talk with people about them and to give them, our Protestant evangelical, Christian worldview. And they could share with me a lot of Jehovah's Witness, a lot of just New Age. There's like this yoga / hippie / reggae kind of thing going on with a lot of the people that come in, and they just all have very interesting non-biblical spiritual views. And so it's a great opportunity for evangelism just because they walk in and they sit down, and we get to invite them to church. And then a lot of other Christians have come in, and we've been able to just hopefully encourage them as we say, hey, God's doing a work here too, and give them a burger, give them good customer service, and just send them on their way with the prayer, and then sometimes have come to church, and even just random strangers, whether they're Christians or not, they've decided to come to church basically because they came to the restaurant for a burger, and we were able to say, yeah, this is a restaurant, but it's also a church. Would you like to come? And so just by selling cheeseburgers, it opened up opportunities for us to share the gospel. And so on that standpoint, the restaurant was great. But then also the restaurant took up a lot of our time. And so there's other things that I would have liked to be more involved in, like with the community or with orphanages, just random different stuff, learning Spanish for one. I just feel like the restaurant was kind of consuming me a little bit. And then when I wasn't at the restaurant, I was kind of tired from either working in the restaurant or studying. And, I just you kind of things just go by slower. You still get to serve in this area outside of the restaurant, but it seems like they're far and few between, and just kind of becomes a routine. Like, we know that we're going to the restaurant, and then on Wednesdays we're having Bible study, and then you're going to the restaurant, and then on Sundays we're doing church, and then we're going to the restaurant. It kind of trickles, and it kind of just feel in a routine. And so with the restaurant gone, I feel like we can break free from routine, and we could really dive in and to focus on more important, at least for this time, things that are more important spiritually. Not that the restaurant wasn't important, not that the restaurant wasn't a spiritual service, but just with what we have going on right now and the restaurant not being here, I feel like we really will be able to meet maybe more demanding spiritual needs at the present moment. So one of the main things right now, I pray you guys would come alongside with me in prayer support, was that I would be able to learn Spanish. Because knowing Spanish would really help me be able to go into the streets and in the living community now that the restaurant's gone. I know I mentioned that, but that's a huge prayer, because I also volunteered my time and the two guys' times to help Angel. Angel is our landlord, and I told him that we would help with various labor work regarding the construction. One, hopefully it's going to let the construction go by faster. Two, hopefully it'll kind of secure us a spot that he will build us a chapel. Maybe even the rent and material costs would be cheaper because we're offering free labor. But most importantly, I did this because he's not saved, and I think this is a really good opportunity for us to just become really good friends with this guy. And the more we become friends with them, and the more we love on them with the love of Christ, the more willing he might be to come to church, and the more willing he might be to accept Christ. The more he interacts with us, and the more hopefully we're being a good Christian example, the more opportunities, we're hopefully creating for the Lord to work on him. And because one thing he said, I know we're taking this restaurant away from you. He kind of did something shady to where he said at one point, the front restaurant was going to be Spanish and Italian, and that we could have this back restaurant. And as soon as he started mentioning about building us a chapel, he was like, yeah, actually, I kind of was going to do this Italian restaurant all by itself in the front, and this Spanish restaurant all by itself in the back. We really don't want to combine them in the first place. I'm like, well then, even if we did have this back restaurant, how long would we have had it until he just took it away from us to make it a Spanish one? I don't know what the deal is. But even though he's kind of been a little shady with us, he still said, I don't want to have to see the church leave. He goes, I like you guys. He even said to me that he likes me personally. He thinks I'm a good guy. For the little bit that he knows me, that's a compliment. I appreciate that. And so he's not saved, and I would like to be this guy's friend more, but he doesn't speak a lick of English. So we've always had a translator. We've had a sit-down meeting, and someone would go back and forth so we could have these discussions. So if I could learn Spanish, I think that really sets an impression on the people here. They're saying, hey, man, this guy made an effort to learn our language, and that I could be Angel's friend more. I can invite him to church. I could more eloquently or properly share the gospel with him in his own language. And so I do want to be his friend, but I do want him to get saved. That's the main reason why we're down here, is to love on people with God's love. And so please keep that in your prayers so we have more opportunities to minister to Ticos. Because I love the gringos down here. I'm so happy that we can minister to Americans and to these expats, is what they're called. But I'm living in Costa Rica, and the Lord just keeps more and more putting on my heart to not to focus on the Ticos. I want to focus on people, whether that's gringos, Americans, or whether that's Costa Ricans. But it just, my heart is burdened saying, man, if I'm in Costa Rica, minister to Costa Ricans. And so I do pray that God brings more Costa Ricans to our church, and God would let me have more relationships and more friendships with Costa Ricans. So please keep that in prayer. That would be something that, because I'm not good with learning languages. I tried in high school, and it was a total fail. I tried to pick it up when I was going to Spain for Bible college. That was another fail. My dad had a friend who was fluent in Spanish, and she was trying to help me out, and that was a fail. So I've tried Spanish a few times, and I'm not very good at it. So please, I'm going to give it another shot. Pray for me. I'd update on our Jeep. I'll move subjects now. The Jeep, was totaled. It was wrecked. But then we had a friend of ours buy the Jeep off us for $350 because they want to scrap it. They want to, sell all the parts for it, which is perfect, because even though we received a free new car, it still cost me $350 to put the car into my name. So at one point I was in the whole $350 and I wasn't sure how to get out of it. And then, about 2 weeks later, our friend Rosa bought our old busted up Jeep from us for the exact amount that I had to pay to put the new car into my name. And so it's been such a blessing to watch God provide for us financially, to provide for us, practical ways like a vehicle. The vehicle's been running great. It's a 4x4. It grinds a little bit. It's not brand new. I say new because it's new to me. But man, it's been holding up like a champ. It's getting us to where we need to be at the right time, and it's not causing any problems. And so even though we had a crazy accident, the car was totaled, some of us got sore, but God protected us from that, and then he provided us with another means of transportation to get around. And so that has just been really, really cool to see the Lord provide yet again. One thing that I kind of tell people around here, or maybe I'll share with them over the phone, it seems like we often, ever since the day that I got here, come up to like a speed bump or a roadblock in the ministry. Like the enemy is just really wanting to stop the work of God that's happening here. But every time I really feel like it feels like God shows up with a steamroller and just kind of plows over whatever issue we had. Because when God is really doing a work somewhere, the enemy's going to come in and attack spiritually. Spiritual attack sometimes ends up being physical. Spiritual attack sometimes is just emotional or circumstantial. And we've had it all, The enemy certainly is trying to stop what God is doing here. But like I said, we've seen the faithfulness of God come through. That when the going gets tough, just God comes in and just knocks out the toughness, and it's like, here, I cleared that problem for you. So I got this picture of a divine steamroller just like smoothing out paths. and the path is smooth and we're going along, something else comes through and we pray about it, and then boom, God clears it up for us again. So please continue to pray, because I'm sure there's going to be another problem coming up. But just thank you for your prayers, and I want you guys to be encouraged too that, if you're doing something that God really wants you to be doing, well, the enemy's going to try to come in and complicate that. He's going to, it's being a Christian, living the Christian life doesn't mean that all of a sudden all your problems go away. That's a false gospel. If you become a Christian and you think that life's going to be perfect now, that's just not true. Jesus said, the world's going to hate you because it hated me first. The Apostle Paul said, anyone who desires to live godly in Christ Jesus is going to suffer persecution. And so if you're doing, something right and following the Lord with all of your heart, be sure that you're going to have seasons where it's hard, and there's going to be trials, there's going to be tribulations. That's just life, that's just normal. But God uses those to show us his faithfulness. He uses those that he would prove out our character, and we would grow in our relationship with him. We would grow in our faith, and then a season of peace and of calm, as what the Ticos call tranquilo, will come. You will have a mountaintop experience where life seems great, and those are awesome. But we will have a valley experience sooner or later. And so just be encouraged that if you're in one of those valley experiences, we've had them here in Costa Rica, but we keep seeing the faithfulness of God. And so you will see the faithfulness of God in your experience, in your trial as well too. Just have perseverance. Keep persevering, keep seeking the Lord, and just trust him that he is holding you in his hands, because he certainly is holding us in his hands here. So God is guiding, and so please pray for him to continue to guide us here. There's a lot of new things happening, and we just want to make sure that everything that's happening is Spirit-led. So I pray that for us here. I pray that for all of you, my friends and my family back home. I love you very, very much, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to this 28-minute video of just what's happening down here. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you much for your support, whether it's most importantly through prayer, whether that's financially, whether you've sent goods. You guys, you're very much appreciated, and I thank you for it. And I'll try to do more and more updates more frequently, so you guys aren't in the dark. Okay. Looking forward to seeing everybody in May back home. I'm getting married May 25th. Alyssa, I love you, girl, and hopefully this time goes by fast, but it goes by efficient until May 25th comes. I want to be able to stay focused, even though I'm getting married right around the corner. There's still a lot that needs to be done here. And so please keep that in prayer too, my wedding, my marriage, and that when Alyssa and I come back here, we can serve the Lord together, and that we can put each other first before the ministry, but still very much serve the ministry with all of our heart and all of our soul and all of our mind, because we're serving God first and foremost. We're not just serving people, and so we want to give it everything that we have, because we want to give God everything that we have. So keep me in prayer, keep us in prayer. Please keep praying. Thank you very much. Love you guys. Bye.